All right, welcome. This is the last of a three-part series. We studied the first lesson, the Temple Mount. The second lesson, we studied the structure of the Holy Temple. And tonight we are going to conclude and study Yom Bamikdash, a day in the temple with the Kohanim. So basically, we are going to take a trip inside the Holy Temple. This map that you can see over here, let's get fancy. This map over here is obviously an aerial map of the Holy Temple, and this is going to help us while we are traveling and walking around the temple. This map will highlight in red in which room, in which section, in which area we are finding ourselves in the Holy Temple. So before we start, let me just give a little bit of historical background about the Kohanim, about the priests. First and foremost, the Kohanim were chosen by God to serve in the Holy Temple. They were the ones who were appointed to actually run, if you want to say, to run this temple and all the services, all the different things that used to happen daily, weekly, monthly, yearly in the Holy Temple. The Kohanim originate from the dynasty of Aharon HaKohen, which means it is going back to the tribe of Levi. Levi's got children, descendant up until Amram. Amram's got 3 children, Moshe, Aharon, or I should say Aharon, even better, Miriam, Aharon, and Moshe. Moshe has been chosen for the Levites, the Leviim. So any Levi that you know as of today comes from Moses. And all the Kohanim, a Kohen, a priest, will come from Aharon, a Kohen. Initially, God obviously chose Aharon to become the Kohen, but eventually with Pinchas, grandson of Aharon, God gave a promise that Kohanim, priests, will be chosen from that dynasty forever and ever. Now, some practical things that you should know is that Moshe first subdivided all the Kohanim in 8 groups. And each group served in the tabernacle, then it was the Mishkan, at a certain time during the year. And this is how it shifts from one group to the next group. Eventually, Shmuel HaNavi and King David eventually subdivided all the Kohanim out there into 24 groups. In Hebrew, 24 mishmarot. And that is because it's got to be a structure. It's got to be a system. Who is going to serve in the temple today, tomorrow, next month? Because everyone wanted to serve in the temple. There were many different types of Kohanim. So basically there was a very organized structure and system where each group served twice a year, a full week. Got 24 groups. Each one of the 24 groups was appointed a 2 weeks during the year. That was their weeks to serve in the Holy Temple. Except for the holidays. So the holidays was the busy time. Busy time meaning there were all the Jews coming. It was a big thing going on in the temple. This was like, imagine lehavdil, the Olympics, you know, you've got the whole world coming, right? You need more staff. So the same thing in the temple during the holidays was a need for more staff, and all the Kohanim used to serve at once in the Holy Temple. Okay? So, how did it work? You were chosen, you're with your group, and that's it. This is your week, and you're going to serve in the temple. You were called to the temple on that particular week, and the service, your shift, if you want to say, began at night. Because in Jewish thought, in Jewish tradition, a day begins at night. Vayehi erev, vayehi boker yom echad. First is the night, then is the day. So for example, Sunday, when does Sunday begins? On Saturday night. Okay? So your day as a Kohen, day one, begins at night. Erev Tov, the Kohen arrived and was helped by some other Kohanim to choose their clothing. So there were no Calvin Klein, Giorgio Armani, or things like that. They were all the same, very simple, nice, elegant, and I should say pure and holy, white. So there was four major closets for the four different types of garment that the Kohen used to wear. One for the mitznefet, the hat. The other one for the ketonet, the long robe. Another one for the michnasayim, for the pants, which you can't really see through the robe. And the other one was for the avnet, for the belt. Now the belt, you can see the illustration here. One Kohen helps the other Kohen putting on the belt, and that is because the belt was approximately long 16 meters. So it was quite a thing to attach your avnet, to attach your belt around you. You may have want to have some help from a Kohen, from a friendly Kohen who would help you putting up your avnet. You got your clothes, and you made yourself comfortable, and now we're about to go to sleep. Before we get to their dormitory, if you want to call it, which was all in the temple. Everything was there. Before we get there, here, Leil Shimurim. Here Leil is an illustration of what could have happened. This doesn't mean it happened every night, but in front of each door, there were Kohanim appointed to kind of, out of respect, safeguard the doors of the Holy Temple. The doors were closed, and in front of each door was a Kohen who stood by there to safeguard the temple, such as in the palace in London, in Monaco. You've got guards that stand there, they don't move. See them, took a picture with them. So the same thing with the Kohanim. There was one Kohen in front of each door. If the Memune was the one in charge that used to go and supervise and check that everything was being run smoothly and properly. If he saw that one fell asleep, this is what you can see over here. So he was allowed to wake him up, of course to wake him up, but he was allowed to use even drastic form of alarm clock, such as burning his clothing, right? So he's got a torch, and if the guy didn't wake up and he says, you know, you've got to serve the temple, he was allowed to take the torch and to burn the clothing, and the guy, believe me, woke up. So this is what's going on over here, but of course this wasn't the daily event in the temple, just an illustration of the utmost respect one needed to have for the temple, and make sure not to fall asleep when it's your day or your night to guard the Holy Temple. So, the dormitory. The dormitory, it's not really called a dormitory. I call it dormitory because this was the space where they slept. This was called, in Hebrew, the Beit HaMoked. Beit HaMoked was a multi-purpose room. It was a huge room. And it's located over here. You can see it highlighted in red. It served for many things, including where they slept. What you can see over here is quite a few interesting stuff. First of all, there are many beds, some of them more comfortable than others. Some of them just slept on the floor. And the way it worked is the elder Kohanim were able to sleep in more comfortable spot, those private area, if you want to call them. And the younger Kohanim were, if not enough room, sleeping straight on the floor. In the middle, you see a big fire. That fire was lit in the Beit HaMoked constantly, and that was a way for the Kohanim to warm themselves up, including their feet. Remember, they were barefoot, and they were walking in the temple all the time. This room was always heated, and they were able to go and warm themselves up. In the morning, the Kohen went and knocked on the door, woke them up. There was a Kohen right here in the corner that used to sleep on top of the main key of the Holy Temple. Of course, no one is going to steal the key, but this was a form of additional respect towards God's home as soon as he woke up, which was before dawn. So just imagine about 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, quite early. They went to the ritual bath, to the mikveh, which was right there inside the Beit HaMoked. They had to be pure, of course, before they entered the temple, and therefore the mikveh was right there. You can also see some little spot over here that kind of divide the room. You see what I mean? Right over here. So those dividers were basically dividing the room in two, and they identified which part is holy, which part is unholy. What was unique about the Beit HaMoked, as you can see, not really clear over here, but I'll explain to you. It was built kind of on top of the walls of the Holy Temple, which means that there was one half or one portion of the room that was inside the temple, so holy. There was another portion of the room that was actually outside the borders of the temple and therefore unholy. That was important because some Kohanim may have woken up in the morning and realized that they are not pure anymore for various reasons. So there was a possibility to purify themselves inside and also to at least be in a spot that was not considered holy and allow you to stay there till you purify yourself. All right, they woke up, they enter the temple from the Beit HaMoked. Basically, before they started the service, they wanted to check. This was the first checkup, making sure that everything is okay in the temple, that there are no major thing that needs to be fixed or anything else. You have to understand, the whole temple was completely opened, and the Kohanim basically divided themselves in two groups. One went on the right, one went on the left, and they surrounded the sanctuary, the Kodesh HaKodashim. They came back to that spot and they said to each other, Shalom Hakol Shalom, meaning everything is fine. This is an interesting event in the morning. What you can see here is a Kohen called the Memune, the one in charge, the one that you see right over here. He's the one in charge, and he is going to make a raffle to choose who is going to be the Kohen that's going to have the special privilege of doing the first service of the day, which was Haramat Hadeshen. That means to go on top of the Mizbeach, of the altar, which had the fire that was burned through the night, and therefore many ashes. The number one service was to go, take the ashes, remove the ashes from on top of the altar, and that was considered a great privilege. One time, two Kohanim rushed to go first and grab the privilege. And you know, the altar had a keves. The keves was like a ramp with no, what do you call this?
Railing.
No railing on both sides. It was just an up and ramp. And the two Kohanim rushed, and one rushed a bit more than the other one, and he pushed the other, and the other one pushed there, and before you know, one fell from the ramp, broke his foot. So the Kohanim committee and the board of Kohanim decided, enough is enough. From now on, it's going to be a Seder. We are going to make a raffle in the morning. The way the raffle worked is, each one had to raise either a finger or two finger, not using their thumb, because with a thumb you can actually trick the Kohen and remove it or place it or remove it based on what is going to happen. So you had to put one of those four fingers. And the Kohen just randomly picked up a hat, and he says, we're going to count from the guy who I took the hat from, pick up a number, and let's say you said 25, and he counted the fingers. Why the fingers? Because we don't count people, and this is how he was able to choose which Kohen is going to the first service. Another thing used to happen in the morning was to sanctify, purify hands and feet, and that was used with the kio. Kio was a major utensil of the Holy Temple. Was water there, and with the water they pour on the right hand and right foot, and left hand and left foot. This is what I was telling you, Terumat Hadeshen. So the one who was chosen went onto the ramp, you can see the ramp here, and took or removed part of the ashes, placed it right there, Asher bekarka hamishkan, meaning he placed it in a hole that was next to the Mizbeach. Once he did that very first step, all the other Kohanim were able to go up onto the Mizbeach and help him out and remove the rest of the ashes. Once the ashes were removed, step 2 was to prepare the ma'arachot, to prepare this wood for the next fire for today, for the offerings of the day. To understand, a major part of the service in the temple was the offerings, the sacrifice. The sacrifice in the form of animals and other types of food were burnt on top of the altar as a gift to God. Of course, there was a fire, and the fire was replaced every day from special wood. The wood, remember, we learned last week, were a room, Lishkata Etzim, a room in the Azara, in the Ezrat Nashim, were there. They prepared the wood and brought them in the morning there to set up the next big fire, next big ma'aracha for the next day. At that point, they opened the doors. Now, they opened the doors for everyone to be able to see what is going on, what is going to happen. This is the doors of Nicanor, those huge copper doors that we related the story last time, and they were placed right over here in the center of the temple, as you can see. this was where Jews, all Israelim were able to go, were able to access. And Kohanim were able to access even over here. So there was right here the doors of Nicanor, and in the morning they were able to open those doors. Now, as you can see, those doors were quite heavy, and it was necessary for many Kohanim to help out in order to open those doors. There was a Kohen that went up. You can see him over there. Sorry. Oops. Here. You see the Kohen there? He checked all the way to the east in the direction of Hebron, of the city of Hebron, to see if the sun rised, and he kind of made a sign to this Kohen, who was this one, who was inside the temple, to let him know that, yes, it is morning, things can go ahead. You have to understand, they don't have watches, they don't have alarm clocks, they don't have iPhones and iPads and things like that. So the only way for them to tell was through their knowledge of where the sun was positioned, and the Kohen got notified that it is morning and things are good to go. So at that point, back to the Beit HaMoked, there was the Lishkat Atlaim. There were always little shepsele that were checked, making sure they had no mum, there are no defect. They had no defect, and were eligible to be brought onto the Mizbeach, onto the temple, the altar. They also went to choose their kelim. Now, there were many different types of utensils made of gold, probably also made of other type of material that were needed, were necessary for the avodah, for the service, for the sacrifice, for other types of things. And each Kohen went and chose for himself the kelim that were necessary for that day. The Lishkat HaKelim, we are not sure exactly where it was located in the Holy Temple. What you can see over here is this Kohen. You know where he's standing? Any guess?
In front of the dormitory, between the door and the dormitory.
So you're saying he's standing in the Beit HaMoked? What do you see over here? What is that huge structure? This is the altar. This is the Mizbeach. The Mizbeach was huge. Huge. You could see a little bit, this little Kohen compared to the Mizbeach. It was like a building. The Mizbeach was huge. What you see here is this Kohen, he's standing inside the Heichal. He's standing right over here. And he's opening from inside the doors of the Heichal, of the sanctuary. The door of the sanctuary, you didn't open them from the outside. There was a little side door on the side where the Kohen was able to go in. And from there, once he got in, from inside he opened all the big, huge doors of the Heichal. And that is when, at that moment, when they heard the sound of the doors openings, then they knew it's time to sacrifice the Korban HaTamid, the daily morning offering. What I just described, you can see it here, a little side door where the Kohen was able to enter and eventually to go in from inside and open the doors of the Heichal. Now, the Kohanim get ready, each one with his own keli, whether it was also You have to understand they also brought wine and oil and flour and all type of things for the offering, which we won't go into great details, obviously, beyond the scope of this lecture. But enough to say there were many different type of and details of things the Kohanim had to do. Each one get ready. You can see them lined up and ready for their service that is going to follow the sacrifice, the offering of the morning tamid, of the morning offering. Once the tamid was slaughtered and began to and basically offered on the altar, the Kohanim got together in a corner, in a place in the Beit HaMikdash, and prayed. Which is quite unique to know that even during the time of the temple, people prayed. We used to say that prayers today is a substitute for the korbanot, for the offering, which is true. Prayer today is a substitute for the offering, and that's why our prayer of today isn't close to the format of the prayer of those days. Our prayer is way longer. There are many parts that were not said then during their prayers, but nonetheless, they still prayed. They prayed, for instance, the Shema, and they mentioned the Ten Commandments. It was quite a short prayer, but they did pray to God every day in the Holy Temple. During that time, still in the morning, the Kohen that you can see over here, inside the Kodesh. So that is the section known as the Kodesh, as the Holy. You can see it highlighted in red. Prepared the menorah for that night. The menorah was lit at night, according to some opinions, and it lasted through the night. In the morning, the Kohen used to go and do hatavat anerot, meaning cleaning up the nerot from the previous night and preparing new oils, new wicks for the next menorah lighting that is going to happen a few hours later. By the way, I just want to point out something. You see the menorah here in a V shape. I'm sure you're used to see the menorah in a semicircle shape. Well, the truth is the correct design and shape of the menorah, as told, as clearly designed by Maimonides, and has been actually discovered recently. The menorah, the true and correct design of the menorah, was in a V shape, as you can see it over here. The ketoret, the incense. The incense was a very, very special service. In fact, the Kohen who has never done it in his life was chosen to do it. Once you did it, you had to leave the opportunity to a new Kohen. The Haktarat Haktoret used to take place inside the Kodesh, inside the holy space, inside the holy section, and it was burnt, a whole set of spices, if you want to call them, on top of the golden altar that you can see over here. By the way, this was a miracle, and actually I'm not sure if it was a miracle. I think this was due to those who prepared. Perhaps was a miracle, actually, I'm not sure, but the fact is that the smoke of the ketoret, the smoke of the incense, went up straight to heaven. It didn't created this big smoke as you're used to in barbecues or things like that. It just went up straight, in a straight line. I'm not sure if it was due to a miraculous fact, or was due to the very unusual and specific way the Kohen prepared the spices together to be burnt. At that point, once the ketoret were offered, each Kohen went up with his part of the korban, because the korban was taken apart, and through the part that he was given on top of the altar to be burnt. Later on, the famous Birkat Kohanim that used to happen daily inside the Holy Temple. You can see where they were positioned. They were positioned as highlighted over here on the stairs right in front the ulam, right in front the sanctuary, which was in the main Azara, in the main section. Each one, as you can see over here, carries another utensil from the service that they were appointed for in the temple, and they are blessing Jews with the special bracha. At that point, the Levim, the Levites, which created a beautiful orchestra or symphony each day in the temple, used to get ready that once the Birkat Kohanim and once the offering was ready, they began to sing the Shirat HaLevim, what it's known today, the Shir Shel Yom, the Song of the Day. Song of the Day was sang by the Levim inside the temple with musical instrument, as you can see right over here. It used to take place on the stairs in front of Sha'ar Nikanor, in front of those beautiful doors we spoke about. Those stairs had 15 stairs, and it says that the 15 Shira Ma'alot, the 15 psalms beginning with Shira Ma'alot, correspond actually to the 15 stairs that the Levim used to sing those songs and others every day in the Bet HaMikdash. This is a cute illustration, just to put things in perspective. You see a woman and another woman coming, waiting, giving to the Kohen. So they are standing to the section, meaning the last spot where any Israel was able to get there. So this woman is standing right there at Sha'ar Nikanor, and she's handing over in this picture, a bird and another sheep for an offering. Most probably she gave birth, and as you know, after giving birth, a woman brought a thank you offering to God, and depending if it was a girl, if it was a boy, whatever that was, gave to the Kohen the offering, and the Kohen took the offering and brought it to be sacrificed on the temple. So this happened basically every day. There were hundreds of Jews that came with their request, with their offering, and the Kohanim were there to obviously respond to the need and do what they were supposed to do. This is the Lechem Hapanim. Lechem Hapanim was prepared every single week. It was prepared in the and placed in the Kodesh, in the holy section of the sanctuary, as you can see it highlighted right here. It was placed on a table, kind of, made of gold, and several miracles happened with this bread. First of all, the bread always remained fresh, meaning it was brought on Friday and it stayed there for a week, and the next Friday the Kohanim ate this bread and replaced with a new bread for the next week. Now, once they were ready to eat the bread, which was a week later, the bread remained completely fresh. That was one miracle. Another miracle is that the bread never turned bad. So that was another thing that happened with that bread. But that bread was eaten eventually by the Kohanim the following week. And finally, of course, what you see is an illustration of what happened once a year in the Kodesh HaKodashim, in the Holy of the Holiest. Once a year, on Yom Kippur, the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, entered the Holy of the Holiest. Just as you can see here, nothing else was inside the Holy of the Holiest except for the Aron Kodesh, the Holy Ark. The Holy Ark was standing right there in the middle. Inside were the tablets, the two tablets, the Luchot. And another thing that I would like to point out, something that we don't often realize. You see here? You see here something standing? You know where it is?
No.
What it looks like? That thing here.
Stick.
A stick. Very good. There was a stick that remained in the Holy of the Holiest all the time. That stick was the stick, going back to the first story of Aharon, when Korach challenged the appointment of Aaron as the Kohen. He said, Madua titnasu al kehal Hashem? Who appointed you? You know, I'm Korach, you Aharon, we're from the same family, we're cousins, and who says that you've got the right? Eventually, what God asked was that each tribe should bring a stick, including Aharon should bring his own stick, and place it in the Mishkan. That was in the days of the Mishkan, in tabernacle in the desert, and place them in the Ohel Moed, place them in the Holy of the Holiest, and the next day, let's see what happened. The one stick that is going to blossom, the one that is going to blossom, this is going to be the sign that it is the one who I have chosen as my Kohen forever. Guess what? It was the stick of Aaron, a Kohen that blossomed shkedim, almonds. And since then, this was a testimony that it was Aharon and his descendant that were chosen for the temple. So it was requested that this stick should remain in the Holy of the Holiest. What you see over here also is the Kohen Gadol coming in with something in his hands and smoke coming out. This was the Ketoret, the famous Ketoret we spoke about, that the Kohen Gadol brought during Yom Kippur. That was the major service inside the Kodesh HaKodashim, so to speak, to God. Just want to conclude with one final thought, again illustrated here, and that is what you can see over here is that there is the Holy Ark, but then there is also those long sticks still attached, still attached to the Holy Ark from both sides. Those sticks, you know where is those sticks? To carry it. Now, are they going to travel? Are they going to move the Holy Ark from one place to another place? Not anymore. Right? It was to carry it in the desert. So in the desert, I understand that the stick will still remain there, because at any time, at any day, you've got to travel and move the Holy Ark from one place to the next. You've got a stick to be able to carry it on your shoulder, and that's fine. But once you arrive in the Bet HaMikdash, in the temple, and this is to become permanent, and this is to remain there, right? Why the sticks? So there is a beautiful thought of the Rebbe, and I'm going to conclude the lesson with that says the following. There is a tremendous lesson that we can learn from that. The Holy Ark, Torah, represents one type of Jew. The Badim, the Badei Aaron, the sticks that carried, that supported the Aaron, represents another type of Jew. The Holy Ark represents the Torah Jew, the scholar, the one who sits in the yeshiva, the ones who teach Torahs, the one who teach Torah, the one who promotes Torah, right? That's one type. But then you've got the other Jew, you've got the businessman, the one who not necessarily teaches Torah, but supports it. And as we all know, in Yiddishkeit, there always was the combination of those two aspects. There were the Yisachar, the Torah scholar, and there was the Zevulun, the businessman, the supporter of Torah, who made sure that this could continue in a stable and growing way. Now you would think that the main part is the Holy Ark. Meaning, you would think that the main part is the Torah Jew, or the one fully dedicated to Torah. The one who supports it, it's good only for bringing it from one place to another place. But it isn't actually part of the thing. This is what you could have think, that it is only secondary to the Holy Ark. What God wanted to convey is that the two Jews are equally important. And that I want in my Kodesh HaKodashim not only the Holy Ark, but also the stick that supports the Holy Ark. Meaning, both Jews. I want the Torah Jew, I want the supporter and businessman that makes sure that this Torah is going to continue to thrive and continue to grow. The Kohen, but eventually with Pinchas, grandson of Aharon, God gave a promise that Kohanim, priests, will be chosen from that dynasty forever and ever. Now, some practical things that you should know is that Moshe first subdivided all the Kohanim in 8 groups. And each group served in the tabernacle, then it was the Mishkan, at a certain time during the year. And this is how it shifts from one group to the next group. Eventually, Shmuel HaNavi and King David eventually subdivided all the Kohanim out there into 24 groups. In Hebrew, 24 mishmarot. And that is because it's got to be a structure. It's got to be a system. Who is going to serve in the temple today, tomorrow, next month? Because everyone wanted to serve in the temple. There were many different types of Kohanim. So basically there was a very organized structure and system where each group served twice a year, a full week. Got 24 groups, each one of the... So your day as a Kohen, day 1, begins at night. Erev Tov, the Kohen arrived and was helped by some other Kohanim to choose their clothing. So there were no Calvin Klein, Giorgio Armani, or things like that. They were all the same, very simple, nice, elegant, and I should say pure and holy, white. So there was four major closets for the 4 different types of garment that the Kohen used to wear. one for the mitznefet, the hat, the other one for the ketonet, the long robe, another one for the michnasayim, for the pants, which you can't really see through the robe, and the other one was for the avnet, for the belt. Now the belt, you can see the illustration here. One Kohen helps the other Kohen putting on the belt, and that is because the belt was approximately long 16 meters. So it was quite a thing to attach your avnet, to attach your belt around you. You may have want to have some help from a Kohen, from a friendly Kohen who would help you putting up your avnet. You got your clothes. 24 groups was appointed a 2 weeks during the year. That was their weeks to serve in the Holy Temple. Except for the holidays. So the holidays was the busy time. Busy time meaning there were all the Jews coming. It was a big thing going on in the temple. This was like, imagine lehavdil, the Olympics, you know. You've got the whole world coming, right? You need more staff. So the same thing in the temple during the holidays was a need for more staff, and all the Kohanim used to serve at once in the Holy Temple. Okay? So, how did it work? You were chosen, you're with your group, and that's it. This is your week, and you're going to serve in the temple. You were called to the temple on that particular week, and the service, your shift, if you want to say, began at night. Because in Jewish thought, in Jewish tradition, a day begins at night. Vayehi erev, vayehi boker yom echad. First is the night, then is the day. So for example, Sunday, when does Sunday begins? On Saturday night. Okay? A little bit of historical background about the Kohanim, about the priests. First and foremost, the Kohanim were chosen by God to serve in the Holy Temple. They were the ones who were appointed to actually run, if you want to say, to run this temple and all the services, all the different things that used to happen daily, weekly, monthly, yearly in the Holy Temple. The Kohanim originate from the dynasty of Aharon HaKohen, which means it is going back to the tribe of Levi. Levi's got children, descendant up until Amram. Amram's got 3 children, Moshe, Aharon, or I should say Aharon, even better, Miriam, Aharon, and Moshe. Moshe has been chosen for the Levites, the Leviim. So any Levi that you know as of today comes from Moses. And all the Kohanim, a Kohen, a priest, will come from Aharon, a Kohen. Initially, God obviously chose Aharon to become. All right, welcome. This is the last of a 3-part series. We studied the first lesson, the Temple Mount. The second lesson, we studied the structure of the Holy Temple. And tonight we are going to conclude and study Yom Bamikdash, a day in the temple with the Kohanim. So basically, we are going to take a trip inside the Holy Temple. This map that you can see over here, oh, let's get fancy. This map over here is obviously an aerial map of the Holy Temple, and this is going to help us while we are traveling and walking around the temple. This map will highlight in red in which room, in which section, in which area we are finding ourselves in the Holy Temple. So before we start, let me just give